Hara, yokoso, willkommen, bienvenido, and welcome. You might be wondering where you are, or how you got here. Let me just explain a few basic concepts before we get to that. First, we need to go back to 1982. This is what movies looked like in 1982. This is what the president looked like in 1982. This is what New York looked like in 1982. This is what a smaller part of New York looked like in 1982. This is what Madison Square Garden looked like in 1982. This is what Madison Square Garden looked like on July 1st, 1982. This is what my parents looked like on July 1st, 1982. This is what marriage looked like in 1982. This is what my sister looked like on June 7th, 2007. This is what marriage looked like in 2007. This is the happiest day of their lives. These are the images of love I was raised in. These are the images of love that we were all raised in. The media has always used every method possible to define a certain kind of love. But before we had these spectacular cinematic experiences of sound and color, love was defined in black and white silent films. Like the classic 1927 science fiction film Metropolis. Metropolis was a political sci-fi film with a proletariat message, but ultimately it was a love story that drove the narrative. The protagonist's love was legitimized by his ability to distinguish his real lover from the robot impersonator. Even so, he will always wonder if he made the right choice. Everything from that time will be remembered in black and white. It's been proven that 60 to 90% of communication is non-verbal. If that is so, what can be said about the messages being delivered by certain celebrities and politicians? In a 1990 interview with Playboy, Donald Trump once said, "There has always been a display of wealth and always will be until the Depression comes, which it always does. And let me tell you, a display is a good thing. It can show people that you can be successful. It can show you a way of life." Who doesn't want to see what life could be? When you look at an image, you are momentarily transported there. And just for a moment, you've made it. This is the pursuit of happiness. This is the American dream. Realize your true potential. You deserve more. You deserve better. You are going to change the world. You are going to save the world. When I was a child, my mother told me we were going to visit a lighthouse. I misheard her and thought we were going to visit the White House. When we got to the lighthouse, I was inconsolable with disappointment. I really thought I was going to meet the President of the United States. Of course, I knew what the White House looked like. I knew what most monuments looked like in Capitol Hill. It's all over our money. Capitol Hill architecture is characteristically neoclassical, inspired by Greek and Roman styles of great public buildings. These styles are recognized by the use of tall columns, symmetrical shapes, triangular pediments, and domed roofs. Barack Obama's Democratic National Convention in 2008 featured 13 Greek columns. Hillary Clinton's DNC in 2016 was engulfed in hues of blue, featuring large woven patterns. This is what fabric weaving looks like. This is what blue fabric looks like. This is a blue shirt. This is blue collar. Is this blue collar? Donald Trump's RNC featured blade-like pillars and a beauty pageant-style black gloss stage lined with American flags. Instead of red, the Republican color, everything was gleaming gold or platinum, reminiscent of his Palm Beach estate, Mar-a-Lago. Aside from living in the White House, this is where Donald Trump spends his weekends. This is where the French bourgeois lived in the 18th century. Is gold the new red? If red means Republican, blue means Democratic. If red means girl, blue means boy. If red means communism, blue means democracy. If red means passion, blue means logic. According to color theorists, red objects appear closer than blue objects. When I was a child, I used to love rainbows. As I grew up, I began to see less colors in the world. Red became my favorite color. This is me dressed up as a red crayon for Halloween. This is me as a child when I visited the construction site of the Unificationist Church Palace in the mountains of South Korea. This is the first Unificationist church. It was made out of cardboard and mud. This is what the Unificationist Church Palace looked like when it was finished. This is St. Peter's Square in the Vatican City, Italy. This is the United States Capitol building in Washington, D.C. This is the 3rd anniversary of Reverend Sun Myung Moon's death. He was the founder and self-proclaimed Messiah of the Unificationist Church. This is Donald Trump's New York office. This is Donald Trump's new office. This is the Unification Church Peace Education Center. This is what Madison Square Garden looked like on July 1st, 1982. This is what Madison Square Garden looked like on July 1st, 2016. This is what Reverend Moon's funeral looked like. This is what Kim Jong-il's funeral looked like. In Unificationism, roses signify masculinity and lilies signify femininity. This is the subject-object relationship of man and woman. This is how perfection is made. This is how you make a rose out of paper. What's in a rose? A sex organ? Patriarchy? Love? Friendship? Lust? Power? In 1977, SNL did a skit on Moonies, which is a derogatory term for Unificationists. It was called Night of the Moonies, a spoof off of George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. The skit tells a story of 2 people who kidnap a Moonie and attempt to deprogram her. Many new religious movements were popularized in the 1970s, and parents became concerned that their children were being brainwashed by these cults. So they would pay thousands of dollars to have people kidnap their own children in order to deprogram them against their will. These people were known as deprogrammers. Who is the hacker? And who is the rightful programmer? In the SNL skit, the 2 deprogrammers were bombarded with more Moonie zombies and found themselves coerced into the cult in an instant, as if conversion were some kind of infectious zombie virus. At the end of the skit, a cop comes along and saves the day by shooting all the Moonie zombies, even the one that hadn't been fully converted. In 2011, the NYPD banned cops from using the Kar K9 pistol, which had been their off-duty handgun since 1997. The ban was a result of administrative complaints that the pistol model had too light of a trigger weight pull, which may have been the cause of accidental shootings. There was a huge backlash from NYPD cops who strongly preferred the Kar K9 pistol. Kar Arms was founded in 1995 by Justin Moon, also known as Kook-jin Moon, son of Reverend Moon. Kar Arms is known for making some of the highest caliber handguns for concealed carriers and a long-barreled rifle version of the famous Tommy gun. Kar Arms has also been making donations to the NRA since 2013 in support of the right to bear arms. During the 2016 presidential elections, Donald Trump's son Eric Trump spoke at the grand opening of Tommy Gun Warehouse, which is owned by Hyung Jin Moon, the original heir of the Unificationist Church. In a 2015 interview on The Hugh Hewitt Show, Donald Trump said, "I will be so good at the military, your head will spin." In another interview, he said, "Every successful person has a very large ego." When asked if that applied to Mother Teresa and Jesus Christ, he responded that they had far greater egos than you will ever understand. In 1969, Reverend Sun Myung Moon held a district leaders meeting to justify his investments in weapons manufacturing. He said, "The satanic world has done its conquering with guns. Conquering the world with guns is not our intent, but we must bear arms and create a strong protective fence." What kind of fence? A metaphysical fence? A concrete fence? A fence of guns? A fence of flowers? Reverend Moon also described this investment as a way to spiritually restore the economy, saying that America is a golden market. It is virgin soil. It's all very clear and rational. Let me explain it further. You see, every day my mother and many other members were given flowers to sell in the streets. That money would then be invested in weapons manufacturing, and then those weapons are sold back to the American people. And then that money is then used to purchase symbols of wealth and success, so as to legitimize the church's public image. This includes purchasing hundreds of roses for giant displays at various sacred events and ceremonies. This diagram says it all. You see, flowers become money. Money becomes weapons. Weapons turn back into money, and money returns to the original flower state. This is what we call the three-position foundation, or more commonly, give and take. Did you know that during every presidential election, SNL and other comedy shows spike in viewership? Especially political satire shows like Colbert Report and The Daily Show. These comedians design their sets to mock and satirize the megalomania of political figures. But what happens when these political figures upstage them? Can you distinguish which of these stages is for a real politician and which is for a comedian? Which stage is for deciding national legislation? And which stage is for spiritual salvation? Which stage is for worship? And which stage is for criticism? Who is the politician? And who is the clown? Who will dictate people's opinions? And who will change them? Who will tell you what to think? And who will keep you from thinking? When is someone telling a joke? And when is someone telling a lie? When are we being ironic? And when are we being sincere? When do you feel free? When do you feel trapped? When can we dream? And when are we not allowed to? When are we awake? And when are we asleep? If this is all we know, then how can we ever locate what is true or real? Perhaps it is fakeness that feels most real. It's what you are most comfortable with. Irony is cool, and you are cool. Keep that conscience clean. Wipe out impurities. Wash that brain. Some people consider cyberspace, or the internet, to be a utopia. It is both binary and infinite. In 1996, a group of political activists attempted to declare cyberspace as the only true liberated space. Their manifesto was laid out in the 1996 Declaration for the Independence of Cyberspace. Cyberspace itself is a product of fear. It was created in response to a foreign enemy entering outer space. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched the first satellite in space known as Sputnik 1. America felt that, technologically, they were falling far too behind the Soviet Union. And so the US Department of Defense set on to create what they described as a galactic network of computers that could communicate over long distances. It was called ARPANET and would later develop into the internet as we know it today. and so the internet is sometimes referred to as a child of the Cold War. Sputnik was not the first foreign object in outer space to strike fear in the hearts of Americans. It was also during that time that UFOs became a popularized conspiracy. But where do aliens come from? Perhaps they come from their own utopia. The 1977 film Close Encounters imagines the possibility of aliens coming to Earth to liberate a few select individuals to embark on an auspicious new life. This is one of my mother's favorite films because it features a group of chosen people that are elevated from planet Earth and ascend into the heavens. Who gets to be chosen for utopia? These are the chosen people. 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 Can freedom exist if there is nothing to threaten it? What threatens your freedom? Who is your enemy? This is an enemy. This is an alien. This is an angel. This is a threat. This is an insider. This is an outsider. This is the other. This is a ghost. This is a robot. This is a tool. This is news. This is true. This is fake. This is only a dream. And you are still asleep. Some people do not have the luxury of the internet or even basic human rights. Many North Korean defectors speak about the persecution and living conditions they escaped. Usually they talk about famine, health, and working conditions. Recently, an interview with a young North Korean defector went viral on social media. Freedom is defined by what she first saw when she came to North Korea. Freedom is having hundreds of TV stations. Freedom is defining yourself through your clothes. Freedom is found in blockbuster love stories. Instead of worshipping a dictator, freedom worships love. But not everyone wants to be liberated. In Japan, many new religious movements, including unificationism, are still persecuted, and law enforcement is complacent, if not encouraging, of the controversial practice known as deprogramming. 1 year before the 1982 mass wedding in Madison Square Garden, a film called Ticket to Heaven was released. It tells the story of a young man who joins a religious cult that uncannily resembles the Unificationist Church. The film ends with his family kidnapping him and successfully deprogramming him. What does it mean to be deprogrammed? What does it mean to be a robot? Have you ever gone to sleep and felt like you couldn't move, no matter how hard you tried? The more stuck you felt, the more scared you got. And all you wanted was to just wake up. This is called sleep paralysis. It is a common phenomenon that occurs in many people all over the world. Different cultures have different names for it, all describing it as a demon that sits on your chest. This is where the name nightmare comes from. When I was a teenager, I experienced sleep paralysis every night. Sometimes I experienced it with my eyes open. I could see that I was lying down in my room, and I always tried to look away from the dark figure sitting on me. The only thing I could do was look out my window and tell myself, this isn't real. Sometimes I wonder if I never woke up. Sometimes I feel paralyzed in waking life. Sometimes I feel like I woke up in a nightmare, and I just wish I could go back to sleep. Imagine you are in a room, and there is a window. Most of your life, you never knew it was there. Maybe you saw it, but never thought to look out. Looking out seemed impossible. One day, you felt compelled by an unfamiliar feeling, almost as if you were possessed. This feeling compelled you to look out the window. And beyond the window, you see a reality that has no resemblance to your own, but has everything in common. Nothing is fixed. It is a reality where both what you see and what you believe is shifting and unstable. And for a moment, you think you might have seen yourself out there.